Hi, I'm Ani.
And I'm Zeev.
And welcome to Wood-Fired Herping. Thank you for joining us as we continue our conversation with Greg Schechter. In this part, we talk to him about his projects and get into some pretty great food. So let's dive into it.
You mentioned getting into herping through creating an app. First of all, tell us what the app is. Tell our listeners kind of what the app is, what it does, what it's called, where they can find it, all that good stuff. And then also, how did you come to a point where you were able to make an app for herping?
Yeah, so the app is called Schechter Natural History's Guide to Reptiles and Amphibians of North America. A little bit of mouthful. It's available for both iOS and Android if you want to find it.
Luckily, if you're listening to this on most major platforms, they let you slow down the podcast. You can slow down, listen back to that a couple times to get the name.
So if you want to find it, you can obviously search for Schechter, just my last name, and you will be able to find the app that comes up. But also, there aren't really
any.
Yeah, and so if you search for just reptiles and amphibians, this should show up pretty high in the list, and you'll be able to get access to it that way. Now, I'm an engineer. I do a lot of computer programming in my day job. Like, the technical pieces of this were very easy for me. I know how to build an app. I had worked in frameworks that allowed me to do both iOS and Android very well, so that part was easy. But I can't draw.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to have illustrations in the app. Some people prefer photos, but coming from the birdwatching space, I like the illustrations more. I just thought that they could highlight and exaggerate the field marks, the things that you need to see in order to identify something. And so I remember there's one weekend I was camping with my wife and her family, and luckily I had internet. And I spent the drive up there and at the campsite, I was emailing people online and be like, hey, this is the project that I have. What would it cost me to do this kind of thing? Can you do this kind of work? And trying to find an illustrator. Yeah. And I found an illustrator that was in my budget who did amazing work. And this one particular illustrator, a lot of the, he wasn't the only illustrator that I worked with, but the logo was from him. And a lot of the reptiles are also from him, and this was basically the green light that I needed. He was in my budget, he did great work, and I was I did the math. I'm yeah, I can do this, and it's
not going to kill you.
It's not going to kill me. Yeah. It was what felt like a reasonable budget for me, and so I just started putting it together, and I was let's see where this goes.
Yeah. One thing I like about illustrations as opposed to pictures, I love photographs. Obviously, I'm a photographer. I love taking them. I love looking at them. But one thing I like about illustrations when it comes to field guides is it kind of throws it back to those classic field guides that maybe nowadays a lot of people getting into herping haven't really had exposure to that. But when I was growing up and when I was first getting into it, those old field guides were often the first ones that I had that had all the illustrations, pages and pages of it'd have a page of text, and in the middle it'd have a section with illustration, actual plates and plates of these illustrations.
I used to see it more so. I used to actually go to the library and rent them.
Yeah.
I would take them out more so for mammals, dogs, and other wildlife that you see, but they literally hand-drawn illustrations in these.
Yeah, right.
In these
it's such an art to get those lifelike illustrations, but that are I don't want to say sterile, but that are used, that are meant for field identification rather than look how good I can paint. It's more this is that, and I think it's so cool that you have that kind of intentional or not, to throw back to classical field guides on such a modern format like an app you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool juxtaposition.
So one of the features that I wanted to highlight is actually the audio files that they have. So you can listen to the frogs, for example, what they sound like. So
That's really cool.
yeah, so we have, we actually did this together. We were out in the field and we saw Baja California tree frogs and they were calling, and as we got close, they stopped.
Yeah, I remember this.
And so we took the app out and we played the call and they started up again.
I did. That was so cool. I've taken you to this spot where we went last week when we were looking for the Sidewinder. We went to see the frogs.
Yeah.
So it's these male Baja tree frogs that we're calling. And as we walked up, like you said, they stopped and we wanted them to get started. And you pulled out your own app, which is so cool, played the calls of Baja tree frogs, and they maybe thought it was another male, a competitor, and they just started calling right back at them. They came out of the reeds too, like they came out ready to fight.
Yeah, it was, and I feel like the alternative is like you stay there with your flashlight off in the dark.
We've done that, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we had to do last time.
Yeah.
And like that works. Like that's nice to see them in their natural environment doing like that. But it is so much easier to find them, to get them to call, to sort of see what they're all about.
It almost makes it feel like you're interacting with nature too. Like there's an interactiveness feeling.
You're talking to the frogs.
Literally.
Yeah.
I love frogs, and I've said it in episodes before. I love frogs. It's
Anya's new catchphrase. I love frogs.
It's my new bumper sticker. I know Zeev had asked you previously, like, out of the herbs that you find, what is it? You said frogs. Like, I second that. I think I remember asking him one day when we were going to go out. I was like, hey, wherever we go, you think you can get me some frogs? And he was like, yeah.
Nice.
So we went and saw them. They're my favorite to see and hear. Yeah.
The other thing that was interesting that you've told me about before is how you kind of sourced the range maps for this. Because think about it, you're starting from scratch, right? You wake up one day and you go, I'm going to build an app that is a field guide to the reptiles and amphibians of North America. Well, United States and Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, now go do it. Like, it's just, you have nothing there, and you can't just go to other websites. And first of all, there isn't a resource. There isn't a website that features all of the reptiles and amphibians of the United States. There's a great one for California called CaliforniaHerbs.com, which I love. So, you could, if you wanted to, and obviously this isn't what you did, but you could go and just, like, steal the range maps from them and steal the information from them. But it's not like, even if you wanted to do that, you couldn't do that for North America because there isn't a resource then. So how did you, like, come up with that and work with it to get it accurate, and just getting a list of all the herbs and keeping it updated? Like how do you work on that on the back end of that?
Yeah, so there are a couple different methods that I use to create the range maps. It was mostly finding public data to construct it, and so first you have to start with like, well, what is your map going to look like? And I started off with watersheds. Mm-hmm. The U.S. government produces some very detailed SVGs and like data points for what the watersheds are, what their distributions are. And so I started with that, and I found a similar one for Canada. And then I took observation data from another public source, and I plotted it on this map, and I colored in the watersheds. This worked fairly well. It is a little bit too inclusive sometimes, like the ranges are a little bit bigger than they need to be, but that was sort of like version 1. Version 2, I took much more of like a hands-on technique, and I actually started to manually adjust the ranges and bring them in and try to combine different subspecies onto one map and sort of different species that are very similar onto one map, because a lot of times if you look at a range, it's really important for you to know, well, are there other species that overlap with this range, right, or is there similar species that are in a different area? And so I started to do that more of a manual process. And I'm still sort of working on it and tweaking it, but finding these public data sources from a couple different places and trying to transform the data in a way that works for the app. The U.S. government publishes a lot of data, but they don't necessarily have the most up-to-date list.
Yeah.
Because as you know, like, sometimes species get split, sometimes they get lumped, and it's not...
Seems like every day, not just sometimes. Yeah. Every day there's something new.
I did my best to look at these organizations that are trying to do that and sort of did my best to follow what their guidance was and combine the different sort of... there's one that's just on reptiles and there's one that's on amphibians, and did my best to combine it to get a set of species that was that I felt was up to date.
Something that was uniform.
Yeah.
Uniform across all information.
It was accepted enough to fly.
Yeah, I'm sure some people will disagree with some of the decisions that I made. Some of the the common names, those sometimes change and people might not agree with. I think you mentioned the Zanata.
Right.
What's the genus again for it?
The Lamprepeltis.
Thank you.
The California mountain king snakes.
Right, but the ones that are actually closer to where we are
not Zanata, right. For a long time, the mountain king snakes in California were divided into many subspecies, and then not so recently they were split into 2 separate species without subspecies. The Zanata, which they all used to be Zanata with subspecies, now Zanata is just more in the north. The Sierra Nevada is in the north, and the multifasciata, which is the coast mountain king snake, is kind of where we are here now.
So not everybody accepts that split.
Right, a lot of herpetologists still classify them with the subspecies.
Right, and so my app may have some differences with what some people in the space think, but I did my best to sort of to follow what seemed to be the truth online.
Sure.
Truth isn't the right word for it.
The most recently accepted scientific
information.
Yeah. I did my best to find what I thought
the most recently accepted taxonomy.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to anyone who's listening about the app to let them know is one of the cool features that you mentioned in passing, but I wanted to kind of put a little more attention on, is that it's oftentimes we're in the field. We're up deep in a canyon, we're up a mountain, we're out in the desert, there's no cell service. Your app will still work out there, right?
Yes. That actually took a lot of work to make sure that you could download all the information offline beforehand. Because
now, is it automatic? Like once you download the app, you have all of it, or is it something you have to go through and actually make sure you download certain regions?
So you do have to tell it that you want to download everything, but it's one of the very first things that it asks you about. So you open up the app. You open up the app, and one of the very first things that it shows you is, do you want to download all this information? It makes the experience better. But if you don't want to, maybe you don't have the space on your phone. Maybe you're
just using it as a reference or something.
Yeah. You don't have to download all of it.
So today's recipe is something that I've been cooking pretty much since I began cooking. The dish is shakshuka, which is one of the most quintessential Israeli dishes. And being such, pretty much everyone in Israel will have its own variety of recipe for it. Everyone's grandmother has their own way of doing it that they swear is the most authentic, the most real way to make it. So this is not necessarily the most authentic shakshuka, because what does that even mean? This is just how I've made it, always, how my family's made it, how we've eaten it. And it's over years of kind of testing and boiling it down to its simplest form. It's, in my opinion, the tastiest version of it.
For this recipe, the ingredients tend to be fairly simple. 6 to 8 Roma tomatoes, 18 to 20 cloves of garlic, 1 yellow onion, red pepper flakes, 1 bell pepper, which is optional, 6 eggs, smallest can of tomato paste, 4 to 6 ounces, oregano, extra virgin olive oil, Parmesan or any other harder grateable cheese, parsley, cilantro, or chives for garnish, salt and pepper, foil, hand grater, or microplane.
To serve with this recipe, you can definitely have it on its own. I definitely, when I'm eating it at home, eat it with toast. If you're out in the field cooking over a fire, the best alternative is the grilled bread from our avocado toast recipe a few episodes ago, which is just simple grilled sourdough toast.
Yeah, the flavor of the charred bread with the acidity of the tomatoes and everything,
texture,
it really
the flavor,
brings it
everything,
out.
yeah.
It's really delicious.
You get that bread that has that olive oil in there, so it's rich and crunchy, and it just goes really well. You can also have it with corn tortillas. You can have it with tortilla chips. You can have it with, small tostadas. You can also serve it as a side for the grilled steak from our very first recipe.
Yeah, it goes really great together. It's like a different twist almost on a steak and eggs kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like a Middle Eastern steak and eggs.
Yeah.
It's really good. Really, you can kind of serve it however you want. The recipe today is just going to focus on the dish itself. But I've known people to have this with rice, even with kind of crispy breakfast potatoes, really whatever you want. To start out, you're going to want to chop the tomatoes and onions. You want to slice your garlic cloves into thin slices. You don't want to mince it into tiny little pieces. You want nice whole slices of the garlic, but pretty thin.
Yeah, there's nothing like a nice chunk of garlic while you're eating it. It's so good.
If you're using the bell pepper, dice it into really small dice. Heat your olive oil in your cast iron skillet until the olive oil just starts shimmering on like a medium heat part of the fire. Add your onions, garlic, chili flakes, and your bell pepper if you're using it. Sweat out those aromatics till the onions just start to caramelize and the garlic goes kind of golden brown. Add the can of tomato paste and stir it in kind of with all those aromatics. Add another drizzle of olive oil just to keep everything really nice and rich and moist. Add a pinch of oregano leaves in there with that drizzle of olive oil and kind of toss it all in. Once that kind of all comes together, add your chopped tomatoes with a few spoons of water and a generous pinch of salt. Toss to combine everything and start cooking it down slowly until the tomatoes break down all the way and puree and kind of take on a sauce-like consistency. Even out the tomato mixture in the pan till you have like an even surface and make 6 little like wells in the tomato, like little holes in the tomatoes, and crack your eggs directly into them. Season it with salt and pepper, take it off the fire, and cover the pan with aluminum foil. Tuck the foil around the pan to kind of make it seal and really kind of lock all of that moisture and heat in there. Return it to the fire, over a cooler part of the fire this time, and let it cook 10 to 15 minutes till the egg whites are fully set and the yolks are however you like them. 10 minutes you're going to still have a little more runny yolks, 15 minutes you're going to have really hard yolks. I like runny yolks.
Me too.
My wife does not like runny yolks. The harder, the firmer, the better. If you can bounce them off the wall.
It's like a ping pong ball.
So that's how we end up usually eating them. And so, but you can cook them. My wife is protesting from the other room, but it's all true. It's all facts. You can kind of cook them, however you want, as long as those whites are set. At that point, take it off the heat and take your foil off, uncover it, breathe in that smell of the cooked garlic and tomatoes and egg.
The onions.
So good. And then grate your cheese over the whole thing. I like to do just a little layer. You don't want to overpower it. You have so many flavors. Even though it's simple ingredients, you have all these flavors kind of coming together to really create this great dish. You don't overpower with the cheese, but if you want to go crazy, go crazy.
It's your world. Do what you wish.
Who am I to tell you how much cheese to put on your dish?
There is no such thing as, too little or too much cheese.
To serve it, you're basically just going to serve it directly from the pan. I like to put it right in the middle of the table with some kind of serving spoon, serving spatula, and you can eat it right from the pan. If you're having the toast, get your toast grilling while after you've grated the cheese on there and letting that kind of melt in, grill the bread right then so you have your nice, fresh, warm toast. And that's it. It's really probably the simplest recipe I've done on the show so far and might be one of the best.
This
really
is our staple. It's our staple, I think this is probably what we do the most out there. This and the steak recipe.
It's quick. The steak is quick and this is quick.
And it's so rich and filling.
It's so filling.
That at the end of the day, especially if you're, out there herping and you're running around, you're climbing things, at the end of the day, you get this in your belly, you're going right to sleep and you feel warm and fuzzy.
Or vice versa, if you're out there in the summer and you have this, you herp in the morning, you get up early and you do some hiking, you do some cruising, whatever. It gets too hot to herp, you go up high.
You find some shade cover and you do
You have this, and then you take a nap for a few hours. It knocks you out, and then you have energy for the evening.
Lord knows we've done that.
Yeah. I think, if I'm not wrong, this is one of 2 recipes that made my wife fall for me, actually, right at the beginning. I made this.
We're going to have to get her on here to get her testimony.
From the other room, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if I'm right or wrong. I got a big thumbs up,
ladies and gentlemen.
So, if you have someone you're trying to impress, cook them this simple dish. Make it at home. You don't have to make it over a campfire. It's a really easy dish. It's really easy to clean up. There's nothing, everything you're cutting goes into the pan.
It's a one-pan meal.
Yeah.
And, if you want to impress anyone, the ingredient, it's so simple, but while you're making it and the taste of it is so fancy that they'll fall for you.
Sometimes the most simple dishes are the most delicious.
speaking of delicious, one of my other passions is craft beer.
Yeah.
And some people really love pairing wine or beer or something else with a meal. And so, I was trying to think of what would go well with this dish. And honestly, I mean, people have shakshuka like for all meals, but because it's mostly eggs, I think of it as a breakfast.
Sure, yeah, it's a breakfast food. We eat it for dinner all the time, but it's a breakfast dish.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't normally have beer with breakfast. But, I was thinking I really like tart, sour ales, and they're lighter, and I feel like they're better for like earlier drinking or all-day drinking.
Lighter, just...
Yeah, and there was one that I had the other day that I thought would actually be paired really well with this. And it was from Great Notion Brewery, and it was their blueberry muffin, which, I don't know, I've had a blueberry muffin for breakfast before.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely breakfast theme.
So I highly recommend this as a great beer on its own, but I think it would go really well with this meal.
Is that something that I could just find in stores or order online, or...?
So Great Notion is out of Oregon. Okay. So if you're not on the West Coast, it's probably a little difficult to find.
Sure.
We get it down here in Los Angeles at specialty stores.
Yeah, specialty stores.
The blueberry muffin is a seasonal of theirs. It's not one... they may produce it every year, but it's not going to be something that you see all year round.
Is it a fall seasonal or a summer seasonal that comes out? Do you know?
I don't remember when I
blueberries
bought it.
are winter and spring fruit, so it would be a winter or spring seasonal.
Okay.
I think. Although we were up in Washington in the summer and they had blueberries.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's something I should know, but I don't.
Come on, Mr. Chef.
I know. Anyway, but whether they can find the blueberry muffin or not, just in general, a light, fruity sour would go really well with this, because I think you're right. Shakshuka is such a rich, heavy dish. It's delicious, but it's heavy. There's all that tomato, and there's all that...
There's acidity and
there's that acidity of the tomatoes that'll pair really well with the sour, and the richness of the cheese and the eggs and the bread with it, if you have bread with it. And all of that just pairs really well with the fruitiness and the lightness and the kind of gentle sweetness of the sours. That you've had me try a lot of sours, actually, because sours are one of the only beers that I can stand. I'm not a huge beer drinker. I can appreciate it. But I definitely let Greg take first chair on that.
I've given you a lot of sours, and especially I've given you a lot of slushies.
Yes. Which are literally just smoothies that you tell me are alcoholic, but I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Like in a can, or you make it?
No, they're in a can.
In a can.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
They're delicious.
There's not a ton of breweries that make it, but they are fantastic. It's just I
want to try one of those.
I mean, you take beer and you just load it up with fruit, and there's so much flavor in there. And there's a number of different breweries around the U.S. that make it.
I think something you touched upon that's really interesting is you were talking about pairings. And wine pairings with food is pretty much one of the most classic things that's been happening for centuries, from French food. A lot of our current notion of fine dining kind of has roots in French cuisine. And it's such a French thing to have the wine pairing with food. And in recent years, we're really seeing the emergence of a movement where beer is not seen as a lower or cheaper alternative, but being kind of brought out and elevated and held up with fine dining the way that wine has been for so long. I know there's restaurants now that have several different pairings. They'll have an optional wine pairing, you can have a liquor pairing, and you can have a beer pairing, or a non-alcoholic pairing too. But there are restaurants that are doing beer pairings with that. One really cool restaurant here in Los Angeles, if you're ever here in Los Angeles to try, is Father's Office. I don't know if you've been to Father's Office.
I have, yes.
They have several locations. They just reopened their downtown LA location. And Chef Sang-yoon, who's the chef and owner of Father's Office, among other restaurants, is the guy who's responsible for craft burgers as well. Now it's pretty much prevalent. You go anywhere, everyone has their own take on a burger with, blueberry ketchup and arugula and this and that.
Some kind of crazy aioli or something.
Until several years ago, that really wasn't a thing. Here and there, you'd have chefs that do their take on a burger, but it was their take on a regular classic hamburger, and he was the first one to really bring it to the masses where, the burger is bun and meat, and anything else, play with it, have fun, So that's really cool. Father's Office is really cool in that, while it's more of a gastropub, it's not like a fine dining restaurant where you'd sit down and you'd have a pairing. the people who work there are so knowledgeable on all the beers they have and all the food they have that they can really recommend. My wife and I have been to Father's Offer several times, just had amazing meals that are paired with beers for each course, or not each course, because it's not a course meal kind of place, but each dish is
and
really
it's on the
paired
menu. It gives
with,
you options.
Yeah, it is really cool. So that's something I think that's really cool that's happening now.
When I was younger, I never really heard about craft beers or anything. It was always like the major stuff that you would find, like supermarkets, whatever. But I feel like this boom or this renaissance of the craft beer renaissance has created this look on beer where it's not just the cheap man's alcohol where you're going, that it's really been brought into a new light, and the new brews that are coming out, the new experiments that they do with it, I feel like it's given it a higher class value.
Absolutely.
Than what it used to be back in the day.
Absolutely. And I feel compared to something like wine, I'm interested to see what you think too, Greg, is compared to something like wine, which is so classic and, it's considered high-end, but it's steeped in so much tradition, centuries of tradition, that there isn't as much room for people to kind of experiment and play with it, where it's pretty much you try to get the best version of the wine you're trying to create rather than trying to create new things.
Same with like whiskey and bourbon.
Absolutely. Whereas with beer, there's definitely, these cans right here are proof, there's a lot more, people have a lot more agency to kind of follow their passion and try to create new things and try to explore more.
I agree with you completely. I find wine very boring for the reasons that you're saying.
I actually don't like it at all, to be honest.
Look, you can make a good wine or stuff, but most wine to me tastes very similar. And
it's that 1% difference between each one that makes a difference, but they're all 99%.
Yeah, because the number of different levers that you can pull to sort of change the flavor are much smaller than that you can do with beer, or rather than what people choose to do with beer.
I agree.
And certainly with all these like sours and slushes where they add so much fruit into it, I feel like they've really widened the breadth of different tastes and flavors that you can get.
Right, I think it's interesting that with a beer, that's something that's celebrated and it's exciting. Whereas if someone tried to do that with wine, they'd get laughed out of town. They get lynched for sure. Yeah. It's such a
like, how dare you mess with like you said, a centuries old process or recipe or something like that.
Right.
The way you're growing your grapes, or where with beer it's almost applauded. Like, wow, look at this new feat that you've done, and opening up a different kind of like a flavor palette. Each beer has its own character.
I don't know if it's just because most of my experience with fine dining has been here in LA. And LA is a city that is known to be more open to new things and experimental things. And it's one of the reasons people speculate we don't have a 3-star Michelin restaurant here in LA, even though the caliber of the chefs and the restaurants here are at par with anywhere in the world, I believe, is because it's kind of a little more casual, a little more experimental, more open to new things. So I don't know if it's the same case in other parts of the world or in other great food cities, but here in LA, seeing the rise of beer on restaurant menus, restaurants that have long been bastions of fine dining and really, really classic fine dining, and now you can go on and have a whole, like I said, a whole beer pairing with that. I think it's been really cool to see.
So previously, when we were talking about being out in the field and stuff, you'd mentioned filming for videos and putting them up on YouTube. How did that come about? What triggered the passion of filming and editing and putting it up? What caused the YouTube boom?
Yeah, so this was a learning process for me. So as I was doing all this research and like learning about how to go herping and what you could find out there and how to identify some of these species, like I spent a lot of time on YouTube, and I was looking at other people who were out in the field, and I was like, these are interesting videos, but I didn't always feel like I was learning the specific things that I wanted. And I was like, you know what, there's probably a desire for this. And so I started my own YouTube channel to do similar things, like record what I'm seeing out in the field, give people insight into my adventures.
Yeah.
And I really try to make the videos informational and educational in some regard. And I started off being very particular about, okay, here's what I found and here are the field marks. This one, this one, this one, this one. now that I've been doing it for a while, I try to find new, different information that I've learned about it, because obviously I see a lot of gopher snakes.
I feel like it can be tough to fill a video up, especially on certain days where, well, you guys are saying you found 16 garter snakes. You're not going to make 25 garter snakes. You're not going to make a 30-minute video or less, and to say, here's garter snake number 1, 2, 3, and it's try to make it interesting in the different species that you find. The first time that I'd met you had the GoPro and everything, putting it in the water and filming the frogs, and once I watched that, I was like, oh, I got a GoPro, I want to do that too. Like, I think I ended up, our most recent trip, I was like, I want to film where we're at, so I ended up suction cupping it to the front of my Jeep, and watching you do it, I was like, man, that's what I want to do too. We're out there. But they're very enjoyable to watch, because I feel like they are informational, but they're not like, I don't feel like I'm watching a science class video.
Thank you very much.
A science lecture. Yeah. What are some of you have a lot of videos at this point. You've been doing it for a little bit, and you post pretty regularly. What are some of the videos that you've especially enjoyed either creating or either creating in the field or in the studio later?
Yeah, so I think I have 160 videos at this point. So
just a little bit.
Give or take a couple. And I think there's one video that I clearly put the most amount of effort in, and that's the grouse video.
It's an amazing video.
Yeah, so and for that video, like, I kind of planned it. I wrote out a script that I would say while I was out in the field and, like, in the morning, and I had good transitions, and, like, when I was home, I did voiceovers for it, and I really put in a lot of effort and tried some new things. It's not my most popular video, and most of the channel is not on birds, but I did really, really like it. After that, I mean, it's much harder to pick a favorite after that. It's easy to tell you this day was more fun than the other day, but I had such an emotional tie to the video, because
that's why it's your creation, right?
I know what happened. There's a frog video. It's 1 minute long, and I'm, like, finding a green tree frog, and as I'm talking about it starts calling, and it was a really exciting experience. And for whatever reason, this video is actually my most popular video now. It's been viewed 100,000 times. Yeah. Which in the scope of YouTube is not that big.
100,000 times is a lot. It's a lot of times, no matter how you dice it.
Yeah, very impressive to have that.
It's very exciting for my channel. But like I did not do any editing of that video. It is like it was
it's just in the raw, in that moment.
Yeah. And it was a really exciting trip. It was in New Orleans. I was staying with my sister-in-law, and we had, like, parked the car, and I heard this cacophony of frogs that were calling in the construction site next to her apartment. And so I walk over, and I find this tree frog, and I find some toads, and I find gray tree frogs, and I find a snake, and, like, it was really exciting. So that video definitely is special to me, even though it's not... I don't think it's the highest quality of video that I've put together.
I get that. I mean, sometimes some of my favorite photographs that I've taken and shared are ones that technically you look at them and they're not that great. There's nothing special about them, but you have such an emotional connection to the moment behind it. It's such a representation of an experience, memory, and emotion that you can get tied to that, even if it's not technically your best work. So I definitely get that.
So when you at the end of the day, when you go to begin editing, what's the process that you do? Do you take a look at your footage and create a script around it, or do you kind of chronologically edit how that day was and then do voiceovers as needed?
Yeah, it's mostly what you were just saying. I usually take all my footage, stick it into the timeline, and go through it chronologically as it tells the story, what happened. I'll add voiceovers if the audio was really bad, if I didn't talk about the species because I was with other people.
If Steve gives wrong information in one of the videos.
Sure. There's sometimes like I don't know anything about it. I'm not even sure I have the right species, and so I'll do the research later and then do the voiceover. That's mostly how my process works. When I have a topic that I'm particularly excited about, I'll kind of I'll outline it. It's not really storyboarding, but I'll outline the kind of things that I want to talk about.
Things you want to talk about.
Yeah. So like, because the grouse video, for example, I saved what I thought was like the best grouse for the end of it, even though that was like the third grouse that we saw on the trip. So it depends. I mean, some of the videos that I'm working in now, I have like so much content and it starts to feel a little repetitive that I actually strip out some things that I didn't talk about.
Sure.
Or I don't feel like they add much to the video.
That they belong or anything like that.
So a lot of the Costa Rica videos, like, do you really need to see another clip of a Fitzinger's Robert frog?
Right.
Yeah.
They're in almost every video out there, and they're cool, but they're not that interesting, and I didn't have that much to share about them. Red-eyed tree frog, on the other hand, that's one of the most pretty frogs out there. If we saw it another day, I was going to include it again.
Right. Yeah, it's something interesting to bring up is that editing process and learning how to really take the time to, we love everything we create.
Yeah.
We created it. We wouldn't have created it if we didn't love it. But having the humility, I guess, to sit there and listen to it and go, would my listener enjoy this? I enjoy it because I created it and I know the context behind it.
It's interesting to me. I was there.
And I know the story behind it. I know the story ahead of it. I understand this, and so this is fun for me. But is it going to be fun for my listener, or in your case, the viewer? And that's really, I think, been the biggest challenge for us with the podcast is we were recently editing another episode, and just being able to not feel bad or not hold back from taking the knife to, in your case, footage, or in our case, audio, and just cutting stuff out if it doesn't add anything. Like, it's not bad, but it's not adding anything. It's not bringing anything to it, And that, I assume, especially looking at videos that you've created from trips that we've taken, where I know we've been out for 10 or 12 hours sometimes, and all of it was fun, all of it was cool, and then you managed to make an 11 or 14-minute video out of it. And I know it must have been really hard.
Highlights of the day.
I know it must have been really hard to go through and just be like, yeah, that was cool, but I'm not including that. That doesn't add anything to the process, How do you have that discipline with yourself about the editing?
I don't know. So, I mean,
fair enough.
A lot of the times I try to do a path that's fairly easy for me. I already have a day job. I don't need this to be another day job, even though I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
So if I don't have a lot of like audio explanation already, I might take a lot of that out. And I really try to just take the highlights, make it interesting. If a shot is blurry, take it out right away. Don't even look at it. Don't even consider it.
Right.
Unless it's like a blurry shot of something like eating something else.
And it's super rare, and it's the only shot you got.
Right. But yeah, I usually just I try to have somewhat of a formula. It's kind of abstract, but it's just a way for me to sort of go through the process a little quickly. Right. I always have an intro. I always tell people where I am, and I say, "Hey, adventurers." I have a little bit of like a musical introduction shot, and I just grab a couple scenic shots, and then it's like, here's a species, here's the next one.
Yeah.
And you don't waste so much time in between with the finding of. It's more just, here are my finds.
Yeah. You follow your usual structure of how the video usually pans out.
I keep iterating, trying to do interesting things, but trying to make sure that the process is still fun for me and doesn't turn into...
It doesn't feel tedious or like some daunting task that you have to do, that when you go to sit down to do it, you're actually you're excited to do it. Because you almost get to relive everything all over again, in those moments.
Yeah.
What is some of the equipment that you're using to film this stuff? Because you get some really interesting shots. You get really cool close-ups. You get some nice landscape, portrait stuff. What's your filming rig?
Yeah, so my primary thing is my cell phone. I have a Pixel 6 Pro. I use that to film probably 80% of what I take. I have a macro lens that I'm able to attach to my phone that I can take some cool close-up shots.
Yeah.
This has been particularly exciting when we're finding lizards, and you can like see the scales patterns.
Yeah,
and
earlier
things
you
like
mentioned the first trip that we took was here locally, just a little day trip.
Yeah.
To start getting some of your life or your year list up. We found some fence lizards and skinks and stuff, and you were able to use that macro lens to get just incredible details of those scales.
It's so crazy what's out today to be able to do that. You know, a lot of when I used to watch YouTube growing up, I used to tell myself, you know, as a musician, I wanted to film myself and put covers out and do things like that. And I used to think, man, I'm going to have to buy all kinds of equipment. Cameras, this, that, monitors, all kinds of stuff. And then nowadays it's become so simple that with your phone, these phones are so good, and slight little attachments that you can get off like Amazon, things like that. It literally opens you up to a vast world of film and audio, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, the advancement in cell phone technology, especially in photography, has been amazing. I have a family friend back in India who's a wedding photographer. But when I say he's a wedding photographer, he doesn't shoot your average weddings. He's really he's won multiple international awards. He's considered one of the best photographers in the world. And he does weddings for, the elitist of the elite of the world. And his new thing now in the last couple of years has been him and his team go to shoot these weddings, and they shoot them entirely on iPhone.
Yeah,
That's
my
it.
sister-in-law's wedding was like that. Everyone was in shock.
He used to have, all the rigs, the Canon, all the I think he was a Canon user. I'm not sure, but he had the top-end SLRs, and he had all his lenses and his lighting rigs and all of that. And everything he shoots now is on iPhone. And I'm talking about most incredible weddings in the world. And this photography is unreal if you saw it. I'll show it to you guys after we're done recording. And I'll post a link to it actually in the post, because it's really incredible photography that everyone should see. And it's all shot on iPhone, which is just, it's crazy to me that you can do that now with this device, Yeah,
I think my sister-in-law's wedding, the guy had it was like a round stabilizer. His phone was in the middle,
right,
and it was a ring light, and he's just walking around. Everyone was like, who is, like, it really was, did
guy?
your wedding video come out? And we watched it back. You only watch your wedding video once. But we watched it back, and I was like, oh damn, that was all done on like an iPhone 6. This was a few years ago. And it's just crazy for people to realize that you don't need to go out and spend insane amounts of money,
right,
to be able to do this.
After you hear this episode, go out and watch Greg's videos. Watch all of them, because they're all great, and just see how this footage looks. This footage
It's
that he's
crisp.
captured on his cell phone is so sharp. So you use 80% of it as your cell phone.
Yep. Then maybe 15% of it is a GoPro. I have the DJI Mini 2 as my drone. It's a fairly inexpensive drone, and so I get a lot of cool shots with that. It's also just a lot of fun to fly around, even if
I've been thinking of getting one myself, because just to go to some of the locations we go and like send it off, maybe to like scope it out or something.
Right. For me, for some of that in late spring here, the mustard grass is so high, and when I go out looking for my board lines, sometimes the boards are disappeared unless you're standing right over them. Send the drone up and look for your boards,
Yeah, I swear I usually film like an hour of drone footage, and I use like 15 seconds of it.
Yeah. So when you have, because I've seen you before when we're out and you have the GoPro mounted, is it just recording the whole day?
No.
Or do you turn it on when you start flipping?
So so if I had it on the whole day, it would run out of battery really quick. So usually what I do is if we're in an area where we're flipping and there's a lot of things to flip, I'll turn it on. And usually what will happen is the beginning of the day I'll turn it on and I'll get a lot of footage of us finding nothing. And then I'll get bored and I'll want to save battery, and I'm like, I'm tired of turning this on and off again. And then towards the end of the day I won't be turning it on, and that's when we start finding stuff.
Yeah, that's how the universe works.
Yeah.
But as soon as I hear some excitement or I see something, I turn it on and then I get back to what we're doing. So I might not have the exact moment that we found it, but I'll
have the moment right after.
Yeah, the conversation and things like that.
Yeah.
One of the things, if you guys either are already familiar with Greg's channel or go watch it now, one of the things I really appreciate about his videos is, I'm in a lot of them.
Me too. Well, I'm in a couple of them.
But more importantly, what I really like is just your style of videos, your style of editing, and not even your editing, just your style of content. There's so much of it out there is so sensational and so just almost incendiary. You get, whether it's free handling rattlesnakes or tearing through habitat and really kind of showing where you are, and just really not something we talk a lot about on this podcast is ethical herping. That's something that we've talked about from the beginning and probably will till the end of the episode. To the end of the podcast. And we kind of talk when we have guests on what ethical herping means to them. And most people agree that it means respecting the land that you're on, respecting the animals that you're interacting with. And then beyond those main points, there's all kinds of other things that it means to people. But what I really appreciate in your videos is that you kind of hit those things. When we're finding animals, it's minimal interaction. Stress them as little as possible. We handle them, sure, but we're not stressing them out. And often in your videos, you use a lot of in situ footage. You use footage of animals as we find them rather than posing them. And with some videos you watch out there on YouTube, some of these guys, it's so clear that they've maybe caught the snake last night and bagged it up and pulled it out the next day in the sun because that's going to be a better shot. And the snake might be angrier then, so it might give them more reactions or stuff like that. Was that a conscious decision when you started making videos that you wanted to kind of go more with the educational, more documentary style as opposed to that kind of sensational? Because the thing is about that sensational style of videos with social media, the way the algorithms work, is it drives views. The reason people do it is because it does work. It does bring people in, whether it's negative reactions or positive reactions, it drives more people to your page. Was that a conscious decision for you that you wanted to stay away from that?
Yeah, the wildlife is really important to me, and it's really, one of the reasons that I don't collect anything when I'm out is because it's important that everybody gets the experiences, and I really want the world to be in a place where it's not just herpers that see all these things. It's like people can come across these things, because this is what the world used to be like. And all this conservation work that we do to sort of rebuild populations and stuff, I think is really valuable. And so as I'm filming, I have that in mind. And so I don't want to remove anything from the environment. I don't want to take it and pose it and possibly decrease its chances of survival because I brought it out the next day and it didn't catch a meal or whatever. So that's definitely really that's an important thing that I have in my mind as I do my filming. But sometimes I get the in situ shots because I don't want to get bit.
Right. Sure.
I can be timid and it's like, what? I like the snake. I don't want to be bit. But I can get some shots of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a little bit of that, and just I spend a good amount of time on YouTube myself, and a lot of the stuff that I watch is very educational, and it's how I want to be spending my time. And so when I produce content, I want to make content that's providing not just entertainment, but is having some extra value to it. In this case, it's education.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what are some other YouTube channels that you particularly enjoy that you think are also making cool herp content?
So one of my favorite channels is from this guy, James Osborne. He is a herper in Thailand, and the things he finds is just amazing.
Thailand is a crazy place to herp. It's so cool.
So he's definitely one of my favorites. And his videos are short too. They're all 5 minutes, 6 minutes long. After that, I do, there's a lot of people in the space that I watch, and I've really enjoyed Biology Brandon Kong. He's up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Really cool guy.
Yeah, really cool guy. We met him in the desert a few weeks ago. We mentioned that we were out in the desert. We met him there. We had a really great time with him working on some studies. And actually we're planning to go up and meet him and do an episode with him. So that'll be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the neat things about watching his videos is he actually does research in the space. And so you get to see a little bit of that creep into his videos here and there. And sometimes it's just in the background as he's talking to somebody he's out with. But I think that's really neat. He finds some of the rarest stuff that you can see in the sort of San Francisco and Santa Cruz regions. And so his channel I really like. I watch all of his stuff. Smet Logic is another channel that I actually think takes the educational piece a step above any of these other herping channels.
It's really great stuff.
He also has the field herping things as well, but he does these extra things that are not about his time in the field and are about something related to herping.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. So, our listeners have heard a whole podcast about you now.
Yeah, so where can they find, what's your channel's name, and where can they find you?
Here's your chance to selfishly plug yourself.
Yeah, here you go. This is a selfish plug. We do it all the time.
We selfishly plug our stuff. Don't feel bad. We do it all the time.
So please,
feel free to do it yourself.
Feel free to let go here.
So my YouTube channel is Schechter Natural History. If you search for Schechter Natural History on Google or on YouTube, you will find it very easily. If you search it on Google, you will also find a link to my website, Schechter Guides, which has links to the mobile app for reptiles and amphibians in North America. There's also an app on bird watching if you're interested in it. It's just for the bird codes. People find it interesting. But the reptiles and amphibian app is really the
bread and butter.
Yeah, the bread and butter of what I'm doing here. So
it's awesome. What's next? What's coming up for you? Whether it's trips or apps or videos or what's in the future for Greg Schechter?
There's a little bit of everything. I'm going out to New Orleans, I think, in a couple months. I'm hoping to go to Snake Road, which is a very famous place in southern Illinois. In fact, I'm hoping to go with Zeev here. On the YouTube channel, it's just producing more content and really trying to find my niche and like what makes sense and what my viewers want to grow the channel. For the app space, I don't know if I should be announcing this, but I'm in the process of working on another app specifically for mammals.
Wow.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's actually really dope.
That's one of the things that I'm working on. And who knows, I'll probably have another field guide app for some strange location in the world as well.
That'd be really good.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, if any of your listeners have publications that they've made and they want to take into the digital space, like, reach out to me. I would love to work with people like that to bring their great works and their passion into the sort of modern digital age.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That'd be really cool.
So definitely we want to thank you for coming along on this
Such an
podcast journey with us.
This was so much fun.
Of course, my pleasure.
Very, very
it felt
fun.
like a day in the field.
Yeah.
I mean,
honestly, it's a conversation. I was like, I kind of like low key don't want it to end here. Like it's so flowy, and it was really great. So we definitely want to thank you for joining us here and giving us your time. For us, you can find us at for Instagram at Wood-Fired Herping.
Yep, at Wood-Fired Herping, or Facebook, Instagram.
That's where you'll find us. And then obviously the podcast is wherever you get your podcasts, which is Spotify, Google, Apple. Go ahead and subscribe and get your push notifications to go so you can know that the next time we put out a new episode. So hop in the car. Let's go.